The moment the Iran war exploded, one question started spreading online almost instantly. Not about who fired first, not about oil, not even about how far this war could go, but about Jeffrey Epstein. Because while the news cycle filled with missiles, retaliation, oil shock, and fears of a wider regional collapse, another story seemed to disappear into the background: the Epstein files. And that is exactly why some people are now asking a much darker question. Did this war bury that story? To be clear, there is no verified evidence that Donald Trump started the war in order to distract from Epstein fallout. But the reason this theory caught fire is because two things are true at the same time. The Epstein issue had been politically damaging, and the Iran war suddenly became so massive it swallowed almost everything else. Reuters reported in 2025 that Trump's usual attempts to redirect attention were falling flat against the uproar over Epstein, and Reuters now reports the Iran conflict has entered its third week with major regional and global consequences. That overlap is what people noticed. Before the war, the Epstein issue was still hanging in the air like a bad smell no one could get rid of. There was anger over records, anger over what had not been released, and anger from people who believed the full truth was still being held back. Reuters reported that the backlash around Epstein had become unusually stubborn for Trump politically, which matters because it explains why people were primed to see any huge new crisis as a possible distraction. Then came the war. Reuters reports the current U.S.-Israeli war with Iran began on February 28th and has now stretched into its third week. The conflict has disrupted shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, pushed oil prices sharply higher, triggered international talks about naval escorts, and produced more than 2,000 deaths, mostly in Iran and Lebanon. AP likewise reports major regional attacks, rising casualties, and a widening humanitarian and geopolitical crisis. And once a war hits that scale, it changes the entire information map. Everything else gets crushed under it. Cable news flips into non-stop conflict coverage. Social media fills with strikes, maps, fireballs, and panic. Oil becomes a headline. The Strait of Hormuz becomes a headline. World leaders become a headline. Reuters reports the strait's disruption is threatening roughly a fifth of global oil transit. And AP reports Trump has been urging countries to help secure it. That is the core of the theory. Not that people can prove intent, but that they watched one scandal consuming attention and then watched an even bigger story erase it from the front page. And from the outside, that looks suspicious to a lot of people, especially because the Epstein story has never felt normal. For years, it has lived inside redactions, missing trust, withheld records, partial releases, and the constant public feeling that the real story is still buried under layers nobody wants fully opened. So when a war suddenly dominates everything, people don't just see a new headline. They see a possible escape hatch. That's where the theory gets its power. Not from proof, from timing. And the timing is real. Reuters reports Trump has been under pressure from the political fallout around Epstein, while AP reports the Iran war has knocked him onto the defensive politically as casualties, oil prices, and criticism mount. So now you have two parallel realities: a lingering scandal that would not die, and a war so enormous it forces the public to look somewhere else. But this is where the line matters. There is a difference between saying a war helped bury a scandal in the headlines and saying it was started for that reason. Those are not the same claim. One is an observation about what happened to public attention. The other is an accusation about motive. And based on the reporting that is public right now, that motive claim is still speculation. What is confirmed is the scale of the war. Reuters reports oil infrastructure and shipping routes are under pressure. Emergency reserves are being released, and the conflict is reshaping global markets in real time. What is also confirmed is that Trump is taking political heat over the war itself, including criticism over casualties, economic fallout, and the lack of a clear endgame. So the theory survives in that gray zone where a lot of these stories live now. The timing is suspicious enough to keep people talking. The distrust is deep enough to make people believe it. But the proof people want is still missing. And maybe that's what makes this feel so disturbing. Because it is not just about war. And it is not just about Epstein. It is about how easily the biggest stories in the world can bury each other, while the public is left wondering whether that happened naturally or exactly the way someone wanted. So did the Iran war bury the Epstein files,